Welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morse. Happy to be here with you on this Monday coming off the weekend. And I am sitting here and I just finished watching your president give a speech. And not quite sure where to start. But I wanted to do a show today with my pastor and a couple other people because I wanted to talk about and get some feedback from you as well on where we are, how did we get here, and where are we going. And I'm not quite sure where to start right now, especially after watching this speech. And first of all, let's quickly go to my pastor real quick. Let me introduce Pastor Omega Jenkins. Pastor, again, welcome to the Journey 2020. You are a familiar face here on the Journey 2020. How are you?
I'm well, Brother Morris. Hello, Journey family. I pray that you all are well and staying safe and that you're doing good
Right.
in spite of all.
Yeah. And Pastor, I know from time to time you do catch us on the sports show, and if you do, then you know that somewhere out near the strip, somewhere out there's a drone over his head trying to find out exactly where he is. But Rory T. Edwards from Vegas, how are you, Rory?
I'm well, sir. I hope everybody else is well and staying cautious and conscious.
Okay, man. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. Actually, Pastor, Moses was supposed to come on the show with us today, and he got a call, and Moses Mailer, who is actually a counselor here in the Orlando area, Moses was supposed to come on because I wanted to get some feedback from him as well on where we are and what's going on, probably, well, from a clinical standpoint, but right before he was getting ready to go home and get ready for the show, he got a call from his job, and his job told him that there's going to be a protest near the store, and he works at one of the local stores, and that he needed to go and prepare just in case, because on the other side of town they did they did break in through the store to get through the mall, but that was on the other side of town. So he is, I think, securing the store, trying to make it home to be part of the show as well. And so Pastor Moses said he's looking forward to us being together this evening. Well, gentlemen, let me go here first because I'm trying to get through this in the sense of for a purpose, and hopefully there will be something that'll come out of this for all of us. I don't know what, and I just, in my heart, whenever I'm in this place, Pastor, I like for you to come on the show. So can you start us off with a prayer?
Yes. Precious Father in heaven, we thank you, oh God, for all that you are, all that you have been and done. We thank you for Christ. We thank you for your Holy Spirit and your saving grace. Father, we pray that you will guide our hearts and our minds. Lord God, that you will speak to our hearts and speak to our minds and give us words to speak that will edify, that will strengthen, that will direct. Father God, that we may be of service to our fellow man as we are all in a crisis. Father, we thank you, we bless you, we give you honor and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, Pastor, Rory, and I'm speaking to you as well. I am trying to feel my way through this thing, and I'm trying to have a better understanding of some things. This is nothing new, of course. I mean, we have been here on many occasions, and I was just sitting here a few minutes ago, and I was thinking back when I was a little kid, because I can remember looking on TV, and I remember looking and hearing Martin Luther King, and of course, I remember when he was shot and killed. I remember the black and white pictures of the dogs, the water hose, the numerous pictures over many, many, many years of the lynching and the hangings and our history of this world, not just this country, but our world. and I always say this, and you two please help me because I'm trying to talk my way through this to get a point across, and that there is something in the spirit of who we are. And a lot of us don't understand the spirit. It starts in the spirit. Since the beginning of time, we've been fighting with each other in the sense of our existence and power and our inability to humble ourselves and whatever it is that we struggle with inward, spirit-wise, and as we try to dominate, some of us are peaceful and so on and so forth. Pastor and Rory, can either one of you kind of express what you are feeling and what you've been going through, pushing aside the virus, okay? Seeing that officer with his hand in his pocket, with this man, with his knee on this man's neck, and seeing the other video that perhaps a lot of people haven't seen, where after they was trying to talk to him and say, hey, you're killing this man, he can't breathe. And then when they tried to come over to help the gentleman, he pulled out mace to push them away because by that time he was already dead. The brutality in law and all of this is nothing new. But I guess because we're seeing it and we can just see the look on his face. And so I'm going to ask you first, Pastor, what do you say? I mean, what do you say to your granddaughter? What do you say to your friends? What do you say to your sons? What do you say to your wife? What do you say? I mean, what do you say?
Well, as far as my children and grandchildren, it's educate, educate, educate. You know, prepare yourself for a world, for a society who will, you know, diminish and play down your importance to the existence and to the contributions of this society, past and present and future. Prepare yourself through education. Continue to be diligent and vigilant in your choices and choosing whether your behavior or the behaviors of those who surround you. And, you know, and of course, stay prayerful and pray and ask God for guidance, directions, because evil is in so many forms. And today we're talking about, you know, the evil of which dresses up in badges and in form of authority and in leadership, supposed leadership. You know, so I was just telling you, educate yourself, prepare. This is another thing that you know, if you haven't been awakened, to wake you up, to put yourself in a position to survive and not be victimized by this ideology and this evil way of conducting business.
Rory, I know that you're able to put words together with meaning, and I'm serious because I mean you do a good job. So if you were talking to some young people and they ask you, Mr. Edwards, why did that cop do that? You would say what?
I would say, I think one of the things that the pastor said is as an advocate within the institution of education, I say there's a difference between education and being educated, right? There's a lot of PhD fools running around here who have not shared the wisdom. One of the things that we must realize is that our journey has been only successful through oral tradition, and that you must realize that the cop is not acting in a manner for which he has not been directed to act. One of the things that I always tell people, you know, you can see the picture of the gentleman standing on his neck, kneeling on his neck. But when I'm talking to young people and I want to give them the experience, I let them know that this just didn't start to begin 2 or 3 days ago. And I take people back to pictures. I think one of the most profound pictures on how they truly value us before pictures were being released was the picture of the 3 African American males hanging from the tree who were burned, and all of the spectators standing around the tree and pointing at them and doing it in elation. And then when people understand that, they're saying, wow. And so I always tell people, you got to understand the narratives. You got to understand the language. When people say we're going to have a picnic, the origin of the word picnic means they were going to pick a nigger and hang him, right? So we have to be really truthful and understanding of our narrative, because a lot of times we use words because we don't even know what the meaning of those words have translated through the entire existence in America. And so from a historical perspective, what I try to do is tell people, I make it as simple as possible. I was talking to a sister today, because one of the things that most of the protesters are now under are the martial law, and telling people that you have to be home by a certain time. And so when people say, well, how do you tell people to abide by that? I said, it's very simple. Well, my mother and father told me that you can go out and you can go as far as you want to go, but you better be in here by the time that indicator starts to illuminate. And if you don't, there's a consequence, right?
Right.
So you have to understand and make people truly to understand that for every action there's a reaction, and for every action there's a consequence. And so if you don't understand the consequence of your actions, then you have to find out how you change the whole dynamics to get that. We've been doing this for years. We've been getting abused. And the thing is that we have to hold people who make policy and constitutional changes accountable for what they say is in the Constitution. What they say is in the Constitution is not really for us.
Right.
But people do abide by the Constitution. You see, when they were talking about the impeachments and all of that, what did they refer to? The Constitution. The Constitution really does not have any bearing on our existence, because we were only looked at as three-fifth people. But let me not dominate it, because I'm a history teacher by trade, and I can go on that narrative all day. But I mean, you have a wise pastor over there, because I heard some of the lessons that he's been sharing. So please let me not dominate this subject, because I'll go all day.
Okay,
I will. I will. I'm gonna deflect.
Rory, did you hear his speech a few minutes ago?
His speech when he first came on, or his prayer? What are you talking about? The speech?
No. Trump. Did you hear his speech?
Sir, if you can see in the background, my television is on the music channel, right? It's what I do. It's what I allow in my spirit and what I will not allow in my spirit. And I know Pastor can attest to this, is that if you allow a negative spirit into your spirit, you'll have to absorb that, or you'll have to regurgitate, right? And that's what's happening in the world today. People are absorbing the negative spirit, and they have to regurgitate it somewhere, some form of fashion, and they're doing it in the street. So if I listen to that idiot, then what I become is a believer of idiocy. Is that a word, or is that a Jesse Jackson word? What is it? Is that a word, idiocy?
It is today.
Well, his speech, man, you're right, because I have to do. Did I just regurgitate?
You regurgitated.
Man, he's calling the mayors weak. He is speaking in the terms that we have to force these people to really not protest, and he only wants to focus on.
Brother Charles, I hate to, Charles,
Okay.
but he's calling the mayors and the governors weak as he's sitting in a bunker under the house.
Thank you. Right. With the door locked and security on the outside, right?
Exactly.
That's a tough guy right there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
See, now you just threw me off.
I had to say that.
But I'm saying,
If
he's
Pastor can
calling
get it in, I was going to slip it in there because I was going to say, I did see him behind the closed doors, right? He was like the wizard, right? On The Wizard of Oz, hiding behind the curtain,
Yeah,
making
yeah.
demands. And a
And
big
what they say, pay
octave.
no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Correct.
wow. Well, he was, he is trying to say that, well, he's focusing on those that are doing the looting and the rioting. That's where all of his attention is, right? He never did speak in the terms of anything to do with the death of the young man. He didn't speak in the terms of the family. He only is focusing on the part in which he's trying to say that he's trying to bring out like the protesting is all bad. And that basically was what his speech was about. And so and his speech is about, well, we're going to end this and we're going to do it in a way that it needs to be done. That's really what he was saying. So I think we all know that it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think there's going to be some more. I mean, there's going to be some deaths, of course. And it's just going to be crazier, and it's going to get crazier, So I'm not quite sure what we can do, but what I would like to do, what I would like to request, and I don't know, I would like to request, and I'm hoping that Barack and Michelle and Clinton and Bush could come together and have a press conference and call for peace. I wish that they could come together and do that and speak to this country as a whole. Barack and Michelle could do it, but I think it would be great if Barack, Michelle, and Clinton and Bush would come together and speak to this country as a whole, because to do what he's supposed to be able to do, but he can't do it because it's not in his spirit to do so. And it's funny because on the news this morning, they was talking to the mayor of Atlanta, and they asked her that question: do you think the president can come together and speak on peace and bringing this country together? And she said he probably can read a speech. And that was a great answer, because somebody would have to write that, because he can't speak from here because it's not in him, And so the answer was he probably can read a speech to it, but no, he can't. And it's just sad. Well, there's nothing new under the sun. And I don't know, where do we go from here, guys? I mean, where do we go? I mean, what can we do?
Brother Charles, I was thinking on the same lines as you were, but not just to limit it with our political or former political leaders, but every leader, every facet of leadership that affects and influences the societies in our country. I think it would be important for them all to step up. I'm talking about religious leaders who has great influence, 5,000 member churches and 5,000 members in their mosque, and, those who are very visible to step forward. Not only that, but even those in sports, those who are idolized, those who can sell a shoe for $200. For all of them to collaborate and step forward, because, whereas LeBron James, Michael Jordan can't reach a group, then a religious leader can meet that group, or a political leader. I don't think it's just one or two people from one area of society. I think we need to get leaders from each area of society to step up and call for peace. It's a time where you understand, but the method, you just don't agree with the method.
All right. We all know, and it's not surprising, that Trump's security advisor said that there isn't any racism in policing and da da da. And then somebody brought up the point that in 1965, through all of that was going on, either 82 or 85, doesn't matter, either 82 or 85% of the white people in 1965 didn't think that there was a problem. Okay, so it's not surprising to us that when you're not a person of color, and when you try to explain and express who we are, what we go through, they have no understanding of it. They think that it's us complaining. And I was expressing, and I get personal for a minute there, Rory. You don't know, I think Pastor Jenkins might know, but I had a very good job here with the county, and I lost it simply because of a manager who came and just took my job. Well, the man just took my job because he wanted to, and he got rid of several people. And the frustrating thing about that whole thing was, by the time I went through the hearings, and because you get 3 of them and da-da-da, and a lawyer and all of those stuff, by the time I got halfway through it, I realized, because, I hadn't done anything, I was all ignorant of what was really going on. Because about halfway through it, I realized that this don't have nothing to do with right or wrong. This is what he wants. And so what was frustrating was, no matter how wrong he was, no matter what he said, no matter how many lies he told, it was truth. So my word meant nothing. And that's the most frustrating thing, is that because at the table, here are all of his people, managers, and who make decisions, and my word, it's like my mouth is closed and there's no words coming out, and all of his lies meant everything in the world. So that's nothing new. And then when it was all said and done, a person who I knew personally, people in this area knew Jerry Demings, who was kind of guiding me, helping me. And he came back and he said, well, they just consider you an angry black man. And I'm like, okay, but I'm just fighting for what was right. But I'm considered an angry black man. And so I just share that story which is nothing new to any of us, but to hear that, to just have my job taken for this man and his whatever his issues are. Never had a problem in my 11 years, never been written up, no, nothing. He comes in, and a year later, this is where I'm at. And so I'm just sharing that because it's a common story. And people go through it every day. It's nothing new. But this is America, and these are the things that we fight for. And these are the things in which we are angry about. And so when we're angry and when we try to talk, you don't listen, is what they were saying the other day. When we try to be peaceful, you don't listen. So now what do you do when you push and there's pressure and you push and you push and you push? And as you say, I just want to breathe, and I can't. So I'm speaking to 2 gentlemen who know exactly what I mean, but I'm talking because what can we do to express, to be sitting in this seat when you don't understand or you don't want to understand? So what can we do to help ourselves, to help others? And I'm asking. I know, I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, I know.
Well, let me share a little nugget. I think there's a few things that I suggest to people, and one of them is that you have to change the narratives of the nation. You have to change the laws of the nation. We have elected people to positions where we believe will make change, but soon after they get into those positions, they are compromised. I'm not saying that all African American politicians are to carry this burden, I believe that all politicians who accept the role of being the caretakers of the American people in the Senate and the Congress have um, a moral right. Not even, let me not say a political right, because we know what political parties do. We know that Trump should have been impeached based on his actions, but political party caused them to stand on the political side and not on the moral side. So let me say that morally speaking, every politician should go in and make sure that the things that we are governed by are also in line with the generational times, right? The Constitution was written more than 150 years ago, and there's no way in the world that any of those gentlemen imagine or could imply what would be going on today. One of my recommendations to people is that the Constitution needs to be rewritten by an objective group of scholars, not an objective group of politicians, an objective group of scholars from all walks of life who represent every walk of life in America. However you may believe that their contribution is to America, there's only one judge of that contribution, and that's God, right? So if God's put you here, He's put you here for a purpose. You have to fulfill that purpose, and it may be that. But one of the things that I wanted to share today as we talk about these riots, today marks the 99th year of the Tulsa massacres and riots. Happened on May 31st to June 1st. Why did I bring that up? Because of when we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation, it gave us an opportunity, and they thought that once they freed us, and I'm going to share a nugget about that too, that most people don't know what's in the Emancipation Proclamation, but once they freed us, they said we would never become anything, right?
Right.
And once we started to become something, they put laws in place. They put mechanisms in place that will continue to make us believe that we couldn't exist without them. And so what happens is that through the implementation of these mechanisms, they put fear in generations, and they put fear in generations. I mean, and I have nothing against the South, but when I went to college in the South in the 70s, black people told me, you don't talk to white people like that. And I told them, you out your mind. We don't talk to white people. I talk to anybody who disrespects me in a way of disrespect. If you respect me, I respect you. If you disrespect me, I'm going to let you see how it feels, because I'm being a reflector of what's coming out of your mouth. If you treat me well, I'm going to treat you well. If you disrespect me, I'm going to let you get a taste of this. But they said, you can't talk to white people like that. And I said they had to be released from that mentality to believe that it's not about talking to white people like that. It's about how you believe you're being treated. And so through that massacre, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was that when we developed this area that excelled far beyond the means for which they believed we could be in, they came in and they burned it down, because that's how they took over America too, by the pillaging, by the raping, by the massacres and the violence. That was the only thing that separated them from other people around the world. That was all set on pillaging and taking over and taking things that I couldn't do. And so when we talk about what to do to change, first and foremost, we have to change, I think, our mentality of how we believe we are and how we treat each other, right?
Right.
And I'm going to say this, and I mean, this is, I've said it a lot, and I've never got any positive results from it, but I'm going to keep saying it. But I said, I've never been treated as bad by a black person than I have I've never been treated as bad by a white person as I have by a black person.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So black people have treated me way worse than a white person has ever treated me.
Right.
Because I expected more out of a black person, I believe. I expected more out of you because you're me. But the fact of the matter is what they say, hurt people, right?
Right.
And so when you are hurt people and you can't find your place of peace, what do? You inflict it on someone who you think is comfortable with receiving that mentality. So first and foremost, we must first learn how to love each other. And I think that, the pastor knows the route to get the people to do that. I think, all of us must understand that route. Once you separate from the source, you're at liberty to anything else that's available out there. And there's so many other things out there that can lead you astray or lead you amok, right? And the second thing is to get people in positions that will eventually change the narrative by which all people are governed, not by one particular race that believes because we are the writers of this Constitution that we make the laws, because you're also using that mechanism to break the laws, right? That's just my little tidbit, my little drop of information about how I think we can change how things are going to go forward.
Okay, now, Pastor, Rory doesn't know this, but in what he just said, and also with your wisdom and your understanding from a spiritual side, and what you've been doing for over 20 years, you have seen, and I want you to share with us the brokenness and what he just talked about of the in and out of prisons, and what you've seen, and you can talk on this however you want, but the brokenness and what you've seen, and then the continuous generation of the cycle that has not been broken, but even for yourself of how you've had to deal with what he just spoke of, and in the prison system. And I know you've seen everything from A to Z, you know, from a little petty theft to some people you go like, oh my God, you know. So can you share with us, in your own experience, the brokenness and your own witness of what you've seen, and I know that you have tried to encourage those in which you have encountered in the jail system yourself, and the brokenness when it comes to family.
Well, as he was saying, hurt people, and I can remember, and I remember pointing this out to brothers who were, I'm being a correction officer for over 20 years, to point it out to them. There are times I've literally observed when a black officer would come into a pod, and you know how much disrespect, particularly, especially a black woman, black female, how she was met with so much disrespect and ridicule. And then you take that same pod and you send a white officer in, and how the whole atmosphere is different. And that's what the ones that I did share that with, I said, this is what you call a slave mentality.
Right.
You're not afraid of the other slaves, but when master comes in, you know, and how you want to talk shit. So was able to share that with them, and it wasn't to a strike against any other ethnic group. I just wanted the young men who look like me, I want them to see, you don't even realize that this is your mindset.
Right.
As brother said, he's been hurt more by blacks than he have anybody. We don't even realize that's our mindset. That I'm more apt to hurt someone who looks like me rather than someone who doesn't. Not saying I'm advocating somebody to hurt anybody, but if they had the choice, I would feel more comfortable hurting this person. And that goes with a lot of things. A lot of it is you don't feel you're going to get as much blowback for hurting a black person than you would another ethnic group. And you hear people say, oh, you don't go certain places acting a fool, or you don't go over here acting a fool, because they'll get you. But I can go to your house and your family and disrespect me, and I don't feel like I'm going to get that much, you know. So that feeds into that mentality. But yeah, it's a mindset of I'm worth nothing, and if you look like me, you're not worth anything. So, and there's nothing to be lost if I violate you. There's nothing to be lost if I do harm to you. There's really nothing to be lost. You know, I would advocate that as a pastor, and if I wasn't a pastor, I would encourage and advocate to look at the style of Christ. Okay, 3 things Christ understood that the devil did not like and could not deal with. Okay, he couldn't penetrate 3 things. He couldn't penetrate sound discipline. He couldn't penetrate unity, and he couldn't penetrate humility. Now, if we applied those things to us as a family, whereas I'm disciplined enough to support my brothers and sisters in business, well, I'm unified enough to pray for and with my brothers and sisters and not look to tear them down, just even if one is excelling more than me, but stay unified. And if I'm humble enough to have compassion for my brothers and sisters, and we build that within the family, and then we be able to share it outside. Those are the things that this system couldn't penetrate. You know, even when you talk about the systemic racism that exists, that is so blatant to those once we wake up, but it could not penetrate those three three elements. But those are the things that we don't seem to want to practice, even in families. You look at, we laugh at certain ethnic groups that, a bunch of them living in one house, but they'll work and pool their resources until they're able to get out on their own. But in our families, as soon as somebody get 18, they want their own place, their own car, their own job. There you go. And you got the whole family struggling, and everybody's stretched out. We want to adapt the idea of unity. We want to adapt the idea of humility and compassion. We want to adapt those things that the evil spirit of racism and systemic racism cannot penetrate. And we have to adapt that if we really want to affect long-term change. There's a lot of things we can do to initiate temporary convenience. But we're talking about long-term change. Yeah, it takes true application.
Well, a couple of things here. I want to, my friend Robin, she said, I believe we will continue to hurt each other until we address the generational trauma inflicted on our people throughout history. But she said, we didn't cause the trauma, but we're responsible for healing it. And I believe that is very, very true, because no one else is going to heal it for us. And until we start to better understand what you just said and what that's really about, Pastor, and how important it is, because we've taken on values to keep us where we are because of our value system and what we value. And then until we start to understand the true value and the things that have value, we will always put the things that don't have value first, which causes a lot of problems in our lives. And an example, and Rory, I'm going to talk about the thing that make you gurgitate for a second there. But
see, you gotta leave me alone.
No. What I'm saying was, right before he came to speak, they decided to shoot rubber bullets at the protesters, and they decided to gas him. So he was trying to, start a little thing right before he would speak. And so, with that being said, I mean, it's easy to understand. I mean, he's not hard to understand at all, not even a little bit. He's easy to understand, but it's our inability to see what's there in front of us. Now, just to get away from that for a second, and when I was talking about the value, because if he didn't have money, then who would pay any attention to him? It's not like you would bring him in to talk to you. It's not like you want to have anything that he has to say. He's not encouraging. He's not somebody that's going to motivate you. He's not someone you think is kind. So it's only because of people are obsessed with his money, of what they think he has, and power. So what else does he have? What else does he have to offer?
Charles, there's a theory that I shared with somebody yesterday, which was something I shared in my school. So, Pastor, I was a correction officer also for 9 years until I left, because I said there were too many talented young brothers in there who took the wrong road. And so I left and became an educator. And I later became a principal of the school. And so what I did is I told the parents that for the first 10 days, nobody will enter the school. because we're going to define what the culture and the climate of that learning community would be. So all of the buffoonery that you thought you were bringing from the community will not enter through these doors. If you believe that it was valid, then you homeschool your child. And you can go get whoever you want to go get to say that I am not following the guidelines. But the reason why your child is in the particular predicament that they're in is because of the guidelines that you didn't really understand or really even know how to navigate through. So this is how we're going to change things. And so I told people, I told everybody at the school, I said, there's 40% of you here who come here and there's nothing that we can do to say how great you're going to be. Your family structure has set up you to be successful no matter where you go in life. I said, there's 50% of you who can go either way. And our job is to try to navigate you to the side of the 40%. Now there's 10% of you standing here who I can do nothing for. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, no matter who I bring in, no matter what I buy you, no matter what I sell you, no matter what I buy from you, will you ever abide by these rules in this phase, in this time in your life? And I said, so there's two things that are going to happen. I said, I make it very simple for you. I told the parents, I don't give gray areas. I said, it's very simple. Either you're going to conform to the learning institution and understand that by obtaining knowledge, you can go further and work further in your life than you ever imagined, right? Or you are going to continue to behave the way that you are, and eventually, real soon, not eventually, you may look at eventually as the whole year. Real soon, you are going to be out this school. Because I am not going to spend the majority of the resources and time and expertise and money to talk to you when I know you're never going to get it. Now, some of you may think that's harsh, right? But I said there was one thing that I looked at. I had my aunt who was dying from cancer, and I remember going into the appointment with her, and the doctor wanted to make a helmet for her with a little hole that they can do the chemo through that will kill the cancer in her brain. And I asked him, I said, sir, well, what's going to happen when you do the radiation on her brain? He says, it's a good possibility it's going to kill the radiation in her brain. I said, will it kill the cancer in her lungs? And he said, no. I said, well, what are the odds of her losing functionability from the radiation in her brain? He said, a real good chance. I said, well, let's cancel that procedure. I said, because I'd rather have my aunt, because cancer was winning. And I said, she's going to pass. I said, I'd rather have my aunt in the capacity for which she's in right now to her last days than to give the opportunity for us to see her as a vegetable for her remaining days. And so I say that story just to say that that's what I said to the children. That's what my concept was. And it was like, I'm not spending the time on you. What Trump is trying to do, Trump is almost created the concept for which Malcolm said, the rooster's coming home to roost. That's what got him kicked out the nation. The rooster's coming home to roost. See, Trump thought that his process would cause a race war between the 13% blacks and the 27% whites. What he didn't realize was that the 78% of all of the other people who live in this country, are tired of his mess and tired of his rhetoric and tired of what he's trying to imply. So that's why there's so many other races out there protesting in other countries, because they're tired of his rhetoric and what he has done to destroy the country. And so it's really the rooster has come home to roost, because the 13% has galvanized and had gotten the other 56% to join him. Even though those numbers don't add up. So anybody out there trying to do math, saying 56 and 13 don't make 78. It may be, don't worry about it. I threw the numbers out there, but the 27% of the white population are now those ones who want America to be white again, when it never really was white, are going to be on the losing side of this epic battle that he really thought would be the turning point in him getting reelected. When in reality, like Pastor said, he's in the bunker talking like he's the heavyweight champ of the world. In reality, he a lightweight. That's what I call a lightweight. You're a lightweight. You would get selling wolf tickets.
Featherweight.
Yeah, featherweight, right? What's below that? That's what you're talking about. Selling a lot of wolf tickets.
Your sister last name is Davis, right?
Mine?
Is your sister last name Davis?
No, Davis. No, that's just somebody from the plantation next door, brother. That's what I don't know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
She says
All
some
right.
Davis says something.
No. Never mind. Somebody said, "What's up, brother?" So I thought that was your sister.
Oh yeah, no. She's just talking to the brothers, man. That's what
Okay.
she's
No.
being righteous in her delivery. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, it's funny because two people said the same thing, but they put it. One said unity, humanity, and compassion, but then the next person said the same thing, but they said humanity, and then they said unity, then compassion is what is needed. And so understanding that, and then somebody said, yeah, that's right, Pastor, but that was a few minutes ago. Right. So, but in everything that's being said, and we need, unfortunately, we don't have any leadership. And that's why I think that what you said, Pastor, earlier about more people coming out other than, who we considered our leaders would come out and speak. Because I think they have been not have been, but they are quiet. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why. Why our more leaders won't come out.
Well, because in order to come out, you have to expose more of what authority has done wrong than what those who are looting. And there, I know protesters protesting, looters are looting. But you have to expose more of what the authority has done wrong than you do the people out there busting in windows and stealing TV. Because you talk about the authority, they have accommodated and facilitated the behavior and actions of people like this police officer. Everybody knew this man and who he was. They knew of his character. He didn't just wake up that day and say, I'm going to act like this. He's been that way. And I can tell you, working in law enforcement, there are those that who could care less about anybody who don't look like them, who could care less about anyone who's not on the same economic status of them, or who could care less about anybody who's not wearing a badge. So they know these people exist. They know, they've walked around, they've heard them talk, but they facilitate them, you accommodate them, or you ignore them. And now this is happening. Now you put all the attention on the people who are committing crimes, and as if this thing just happened. This was these type of things were in the making. And then you go back to the killings that were just basically brushed aside. Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, which was right in that same community. Philando Castile. You think about all of those killings that were just ignored and just washed away. And even this, if you look at this situation, the first district attorney came out with some whitewashed statute that he was going to charge him with. And then the coroners their coroners come out with the autopsy saying that were possible that he died from pre-existing conditions and possible drugs. He didn't even identify that there were drugs in the operating system, just possible. Just how stupid do you think people are? Well, everybody can see that he died from asphyxiation.
Well, see, that's the thing.
But that's what I'm saying, because they keep dragging this out, but you want to stop people from looting and doing those things, but you keep dragging out your mess.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's like they don't know when to stop, how to stop. They just don't know how not to dwell in their mess, in their arrogance, in their stupidity. They just don't know how to. They just don't know how to address us as just people with common sense, that they just have to go with their rhetoric and their craziness. It's just like, where does it end with them?
But I can tell you that term police the police, that's one way. I know this has to come from a lot of ways, the legislation, but practically, policing are policing. I can share experience with you, and just one experience where there was an offender who was in handcuffs behind his back, and he had leg shackles on, but he was very mouthy. And one officer that was there um, was literally charged up to start beating this man. And I stepped in between, and before he could throw a first punch, I stepped in between, and I said, "This ain't going down with me here." I said, "Now, if y'all got that much against each other, let me take these restraints off this guy. We can go to a remote area of this place, and y'all can battle it out. Because I'm bored. I'll watch it good. I'm serious." And the officer retreated and left it alone. So that's what you need. You need for these brothers and sisters in the force to hold each other accountable. They tell us, if you see something, what? Say something.
Say something.
So why don't they say something? Because we know you done seen something.
So
That's what I'm angry about.
So let me ask you this right here. What did you think of the police chief, the one that came, and I don't know if you saw that he spoke, and he said what he said about the other three officers? The CNN reporter, because he was there on the scene where the gentleman died, he got down on his knee and he said a prayer. The CNN reporter interviewed him, and every time he addressed the family, the Floyd family, he took his hat off. Whenever he answered the question, that concerned the Floyd family, he put his hat back on. She asked a question, he'd take his hat off, he answered the question. And on CNN, they said in all of the years they've been on the air, they have never seen this from law enforcement, ever. And they did say back in 2007, he was an officer then, a policeman then, but he sued the department because he was being skipped over or something like that, But now that he is the police chief, he's showing a man, he's showing compassion. And they're not used to that, or we're not used to that. And so just, what do you think of that?
You asking me?
Yep, both of you. I'm asking the both of you. And whoever wants to go first.
I'll let Brother Edward speak.
Rory?
Well, I think the one thing is there's more good officers than there are bad officers. And again, going back to the analogy for what I used, it's the 10% that get most of the attention because the things that they're doing are so dramatic. I have quite a few friends. that are former officers. I have a very good friend who's a current chief police of a police force, and he eloquently put something on Facebook the other day that I thought was very, very profound. But again, I think it's just the mere fact that he does understand and sees, the chief who responded does understand that this is something that is also going to be reflective of his leadership, right? Because he is the person who is in charge of the direction in which the captains and the lieutenants and the sergeants govern the officers. And so people are going to look at his leadership, it's just like in a basketball thing. They don't fire the player, they fire the coach, right? So people are going to look at this from saying the fact that his leadership is weak, he couldn't control his officers. But based on some of the literature and information that I saw, that this officer had been involved in, about 16 or 17 different incidents involving
It was like
people
18,
of color?
19. It was either 18 or 19, yeah.
So you got to look at who was governing him. Whoever's governing him believes that that's acceptable behavior, right?
Exactly.
And so you have to look up the chain. So he may not have been that chief at that time, but his job should have been coming in to sit down with his particular officers under him who are the governing body of the other officers as it rolls downhill, and see who do we have to deal with and who do we have to keep a closer eye on. Like Pastor said, policing the police, right? So that's my thought to that.
I'm
Yeah,
sitting here
and
okay, go ahead, Pastor.
I concur. Take your own advice. They want citizens to be on patrol. We want policemen to be on patrol, because that's what all of this stuff is happening because of a few. They can be held accountable from the smallest. I mean, each year, like I said, this man had 18 complaints. So every year, every officer has what they call an evaluation, an assessment. So what did they tell him? They tell him, hey, we're not going to back you. We're not going to turn our heads. Or he had to feel like he had some type of backing for him to be that arrogant. As this man sat there, and those others, they probably by his leadership felt like they were going to be okay because we're with this guy. Okay, because he had to feel like he was going to have some backing by doing it, because he was so arrogant. He wasn't in shock. He wasn't looking around like someone trying to steal something and they're looking around to see who's going to catch him. He wasn't doing any of that. He was relaxed. He was relaxed because he knew that he was going to be back no matter what. And that's what permeates police departments and law enforcement. People feel like, hey, my agency or whoever is going to cover me, so they don't have a problem doing it. And I don't want to lose sight of the young lady in Louisville. That was tragic. They go in, how is it? They go in, you shoot someone 8 times, you're in the wrong place, and then you're trying to come, and then you arrest the occupant for defending his own house. How arrogant is that? You make a mistake, and then you arrest the person for defending their own house. How arrogant is that? That type of arrogance and showing that type of bravado, saying that people have been covering for these people and allowing them to go on.
Yeah.
And because of that, people like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, and I can name a few that have lost their lives, Walter Scott.
And one of the things that the CNN reporter did say, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, was that even when they do get fired, a lot of times because the union is so strong, they rehire them, or they go somewhere else and work in law enforcement. They go to another town and they're rehired. You know, so it's just like
the trooper in Sandra Bland incident. All the charges were dropped from him, and he's, we got his certification back, and he's back living normal life now. I mean, it's they don't understand that has created the atmosphere we're dealing with right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. They don't know when to start and when to stop, because they're so arrogant, and they just think that they should just get away with what they, and we just supposed to accept it. It said, Robin here said that the fear is that 27% will no longer be in power in 5 years or less. This is their last stand. This is why the rush to place Supreme Court justice in place to keep the white male dominant, which is true, and the brotherhood is so strong in the police force, and what we just spoke of, and so I think that it's probably going to get worse in the sense of what we're going to see in the streets before it gets better, and I just think that it's. I think in the next couple, few days, we might see some deaths, and I think that's something that Trump is looking forward to. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, you can say this, that he's all about image. You can say he's all about image. I mean, from day one. Only thing that's important to him is image. Notice in all his narratives, he looks good, and anyone who opposes him looks bad. And even now, he's worried about what it looked like. You guys look weak. People are laughing at him. He's not even concerned about what's right. What's the right thing to do? How do we bring this together? How do we calm these people down? And how do we make them feel and show them that they are significant? Their voices are significant. He's not even concerned how to do that. It's all about how we look.
Well, yeah. That is
And I
Yeah.
think that's going to show in November. It's going to show in November. But again, what you tried to do is going to shift. That's why he's trying to close down the post office, not fund them, because he doesn't want those mail-in ballots to get the poll to be counted, right? So he's not going to fund them. Every mailman in America, whoever worked as a mailman, will come out and deliver pickup ballots, right? Everybody. I'll be out there. I'll come out and pick up ballots.
I have a brother in that field.
Right. See? So, and
And
he's not smart enough to know how to navigate through that now.
Robin is saying the Browning of America.
Well, they said that. I mean, I don't know if you all saw the special with Charles Barkley, and I forgot the other brother's name, and they went and spoke to the white supremacist guy.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
all it
Oh,
was.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
it was the fear. It's the fear of what's about to become, right?
But what they don't understand is that we're not like them. We're not like them.
You know why?
But we're not. You know, you can live in our neighborhood.
Well, it's gonna. What's the name? You tell me. You can tell me this, and maybe people who listen can answer also. You remember it back in medieval times? There was a very powerful group called the Vikings, right?
Right.
And they named a team after them, the Minnesota, right? The Minnesota Vikings, right? You tell me where are Vikings living currently, and what country do Vikings exist in, right?
Right.
They don't. Unless they call themselves by another name, but they don't. So everything that is good everything that's bad will eventually fall off into the ocean to be buried, right? Everything is bad. Nothing in this world was created. It was created to have balance, not to be bad. And anybody who does bad will eventually the karma is real, and the pendulum will return back to the point of return. It just depends on what the velocity of it's coming down is going to be, and that's what the sister said too. Yeah, we give it. You may give it 5 years. I may give it less than that, based on the energy that's going on right now. But this is just not in America. This is all over the country. You see people protesting.
Right. Oh, yeah.
World.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all over the world, right?
Right. When I heard like in Wisconsin, like what? Whoa, Wisconsin? Really?
You see the omelets came out. You see the omelets come out?
I said, Wisconsin? And I mean, they was protesting in Kentucky. I'm like, what? Oh my goodness, really? So hey, yeah, it's like you never know. So,
Never know.
guys, I want to thank you guys for coming on. You know, with your wisdom. We've had a lot of comments on Facebook here tonight. People, you know, responding. I don't know. I have no idea where. I don't know where we're gonna go. Man, it's just that we just have no leadership, and that's the sad part. But did you see the brother pleading for the people to stop with the rioting today when he was at the site where his brother died? Did you guys see that?
Yes. Yes, I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. His brother spoke in the terms of if you're going to protest, let it be a peaceful But oh, did you, Rory? Did you see this about it was about maybe 3 nights ago. There was a white gentleman who walked up. He had an umbrella, and it was like a store, like Target. It was a store, and he just went and he just knocked out all the windows. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He just went and then just walked away and left.
Mm-hmm.
That's the setup. That's
Right,
majority
right,
of stuff
right.
is the setup.
He was a police officer.
He was a police officer?
Right. I'm saying that's why
Right.
I'm bringing it up. He walked in, he broke all the windows to the store, and then he left. Now there was a couple of people that said, "Hey man, stop, 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 stop!" And he just looked at them, boom, break it, break it, break it, break it, and they was trying to stop him, and then he just walked off.
Yeah.
He's been identified as a St. Paul police officer.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen to him? He's going to get an accommodation?
Yeah, more than likely, because and see that's what I'm saying. That was the setup, you know. But
That's
gotta
why we have
wise.
to be strategic. Yeah, we have to be wise and strategic in what our goal is. And when we get out in the streets and we end up in our destination, we got to have a plan of action where we're going, and a plan of execution on what the purpose and what we're trying to change when we get there. We can't just go there and scream from outside, because then we got people hiding in bunkers that don't hear us.
You know, Pastor, you know what? It just came to me and I forgot. Man, you said something in your sermon yesterday, and you were saying something about on the inside. And I was attending. I said, you know what? When you said it, I said, I need to make sure I play this on the show for tomorrow, because what you said in your sermon yesterday was so right on point about protesting, but then you said something in reference to the protesting and not why are you out stealing and calling all this craziness, and you got to be able to separate the two. But you said something, and I'm mad at myself because I didn't remember to take that part and bring it on the show, because it was so profound in what you said in your sermon yesterday. But that was a very good sermon yesterday. So people, if you want to hear the sermon yesterday, go to TrueVineOrlando.com and pull up the sermon from yesterday, or you can friend True Vine. That's True without the E. True Vine on Facebook. That's True without the E. And pull up the sermon from yesterday. Also, Pastor, we're letting them know on June 20th is the 4th edition of the Pastors Roundtable. And I'll let you quickly explain what the Pastors Roundtable is before we get out of here.
Okay, thank you. The Pastors Roundtable, initiated by one of the local pastors here, Pastor Crutcher. It's a group of pastors sitting and talking, discussing issues, relevant issues, and discussing their practical elements as well as the spiritual elements, and how we can possibly collaborate the two to advance, positive cause, to advance causes like unity and respect and things like that. So it's a discussion that we have. I don't know if we have the capacity to take questions, but we do try to discuss it. Many topics, but trying to stay focused, just on the topics that, you don't want to get too broad, but, hitting on some things that's important to people, and,
right. And see,
sharing.
And the reason why I'm bringing up June 20th, because that's a Saturday, the show is at 10, Pastors Roundtable. And the topic of discussion that we're going to have for June 20th is the spirit in which things are being operated in right now when it comes to these police officers, when it comes to how we've been dealing with things, and just how can we better prepare ourselves, how can we better understand ourselves, and how can we understand our purpose even more so from a spiritual standpoint, and better put on the correct armor, as we would say, to fight the fight. So if you understand the spirit in which you're dealing with, because that's where it starts and ends, but a lot of us don't understand that part of it. So we're going to be discussing the spirit, and the spirit of somebody knee on somebody's neck with their hands in their pocket, and so on and so forth, in the continuous spirit of perhaps why the other three have not been arrested as well. and the spirit of three people just standing around looking like not my job, and so on and so forth, and a lot more. But it's all from a spiritual biblical standpoint, and be able to take questions and answer questions and so on and so forth. But this is the Journey 2020, and this is my pastor, Pastor Omega Jenkins from True Vine Baptist Church. And for those who tune in on Wednesday, the familiar face, this is Rory T. Edwards. He's in Las Vegas, and somewhere, we haven't figured out where, but he's somewhere near the Strip. I don't know how far away from the Strip, but he's somewhere in Vegas. Well, I understand he might have a drone flying over his house. Somebody might be looking for him.
After today's conversation, they might have 2 drones.
Oh, but you know what my favorite picture is, though, right?
He said, "Show Pastor. Tell show Pastor where I'm getting ready to go right now. I'm getting ready to leave here off this show and go right there."
Pastor, did you know that there was that there is a
He's got to show him the location in Vegas. That's all.
Right.
You can't tell him what it is till you show him.
Pastor, did you know that there was a beach in Vegas? Look at that
Beach. Oh my goodness! Whoa! Wait a minute.
Did you? Now Rory is out there somewhere.
That's where I'm broadcasting
So,
from.
so that okay.
Yeah, they were putting that up, saying when they were talking about staying at home, and they were saying people in Vegas was out at the beach, and there's no ocean nowhere near Vegas. But yeah, that's funny.
Right. Right.
That means California's underwater then.
That's what I mean. Yeah, California fell off.
Yeah,
So I didn't know.
It's like people defying staying at home orders fill Las Vegas beaches.
Wow.
And that's gotten over. That's gotten over. The last time I looked at the picture, there's over 1 million hits on that. So that's how many people have been bamboozled about coming to Vegas to go to the beach.
Right.
Wow.
And one of the things that one of the things that you had shared with us before we get out of here was a lot of people don't know about Vegas, in the sense of, you were talking about there was some not houses, but trailer in the
Park areas? You said the trailer park areas?
Right. With the busted busted windows and the poverty part of it. Because people think of Vegas as just a strip and what you see, but there's quite a few homeless and poverty there as well.
Yeah, I've been quite a few places, and there may be more homeless population in other places, but the severity of the homeless population here is dramatic. Because first and foremost, the elements are eating you alive, and the fact of the matter is that most people look at the Strip as just an area to generate that much money, the rest of the city must be Emerald City, when there are major pockets of Vegas which are living way under poverty, the poverty line, way under. And there are some areas now which are very exclusive and very ritzy and all of the above. But the one thing that I do know is that I've been in some areas where there can't be people living there, and there's families and children out in the streets playing, and you're like, wow, in a place like this, where they're making, what was the thing they said, the reason why they had to be open, because they were losing 14 to $17 million a day in revenue. So they had to be open.
Wow.
So, and people are living like that.
Wow.
That's sad. It's really sad. So
Right. And
that's why I'm on my way to Florida with the yachters, getting the yacht.
Right. Well, Pastor, you got to leave us with some encouraging words before we get out of here. I want to say hi to James Crawford as well. Thanks for tuning in, James. Appreciate Brenda from my hometown in Jayville, who now lives here as well. Brenda, tell your mom and Wookie I said hi. Pastor, you got to leave us with some encouraging words before we get out of here.
Well, just want to encourage everyone to first remain prayerful and prayerful for one another, praying for our leadership. Um, giving, taking the opportunity to, when you have it, to speak to each other, do it, and take that opportunity to let that speech be one of encouragement. If you can enlighten for our educators and those who have given the time to educate themselves on social issues, and share the wealth, share that information, keeping everybody abreast of what we're really facing. And as I said, seek God for wisdom through all of this. Seek God for wisdom, because that's what's going to take to get through this and get through this safely. Because I won't even say successfully, because with everything that has happened with the pandemic and the virus and people dying, and now with the unrest, just want to get through it safely.
Pastor, let me ask you here, Rory, you're not familiar with the area, but I'm going to ask Pastor Israel. Pastor, were you, and people in the area, were you surprised when they went and they were up on 408? That's a highway, Rory. They went in and they had to shut down the highway. They were protesting here, and it was a peaceful protest. But were you surprised, Pastor, when they went and they shut down? And as a matter of fact, I understand that Moses wasn't able to make it back in time because he's just said that they shut down the 408. He said the 408 is shut down. But they had a couple of nights ago, they went and they started to protest on the 408, which is a highway, Rory. Were you surprised about that, Pastor?
Honestly, it's been years since anything in this world has surprised me. It has. We have deteriorated so much. I was talking to a young officer just the other night, and this officer was saying that, hey, people are in some of these cities, they're putting up signs on the store saying black owned, black owned. And he said it doesn't matter. I said, well, because back in the and I really felt old when I said this, but back in the Rodney King riot, I said back in LA riot of Rodney King, I said the stores they would put the sign said black owned, and the people wouldn't bother it. I said, now that's where that came from. I said, but this day and time, it's more or less anti-establishment. It's more than just race, because you have so many different type of ethnicities out there, and they're out there side by side. So it's more anti-establishment, and goes back to what the brother said about quote Malcolm X, the chicken coming home to roost, is that the establishment has been so brutal. And those who are in authority, when you had the chance to show compassion, when you had the chance to be fair. The Los Angeles Lakers received the stimulus money. The Los Angeles Lakers received millions of dollars in stimulus money. So when you had the opportunity to treat people right, you didn't. You forfeited it. And so now you're dealing, with the results of, I don't know how long of being selfish, being,
which is so mind-boggling, because here people are out of work, they're hurting, they're hungry, and they're talking about, well, we're giving them a debit card, and you just how evil can you be?
mm-hmm.
And it's people are crying out, people are hurting, and I don't know how, in what words, Rory, that we can say, you need to vote. You need to understand and hold people accountable for the seat that they sit in, because they're supposed to serve us, not the other way around. And some of us don't understand the importance of the seat and the people you put in that seat. And people need to get out and vote. They need to get out and vote. We need to do everything we can to get people to vote.
Yes.
But it's not just voting. But I wasn't going to say anything because I know the pastor, now he has to come back and give us some closing words again. But I was just going to say, it's not just voting. Voting is the first step. We have to follow them through and hold them accountable for the entire time that they're in office.
Well, that's what I just said. Hold them accountable.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the entire time. So you
Right.
have to
Yeah.
almost you have to police them. You
Well,
have to
that's
police them on their words.
but Rory, when I said hold them accountable and vote, that means that when they're not, then you vote them out. Is
Yeah,
what
but
that's what
yeah,
that means.
definitely. You vote them out. You vote them
Right.
out, but you hold them accountable while they're in if you vote them in, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when they don't do what
Yeah.
they're supposed to do, vote them
You
out.
vote them
And-
out. Vote them
right.
out, right?
You're right. That's
Yeah.
what that means. You
Mhm.
hold them accountable if they don't get them out of there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the process becomes so skewed that people get frustrated with it. They think that their voice is not being heard. So your voice has to be heard through mechanisms of which you make sure that your voice has value when you do have a voice. Because some people just want to talk,
Well,
right?
see,
Just want to talk.
see, the problem, Rory, is they know that we're so divided down here that we're
Yeah.
fighting over the little stuff among ourselves that they got all this stuff going on here. We pay no attention, and we also think that they're supposed to be jacked up. We have accepted that for the most part. And that's just the
But that's
sad
why the
part.
change. That's why the change at 73%. It's no longer about one race now. It's about the where the world is going in the next few years. So we're going to have to become allies with those who believe that we have value just like they have value. And once you do that, you eliminate the smaller numbers who have controlled the narrative for so long now. And that's what has to happen. So
Exactly.
we hold them accountable. They hold us accountable. We hold them accountable. So it's now a generational. It's not just generational, but it's also interracial, right? It's interracial accountability for the masses where it's going. That's just my thought on the political journey and where it's moving. So we'll see how it happens.
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
Journey 2020 is going to be that voice. That might be the platform for that voice. Let's make it happen.
well, the thing, Rory, is that for me, I can speak on what it should be when it comes to being correct. What I'm not good at is being politically correct. I'm not good at that. I can
Yeah.
talk about, and in my heart and for my passion about the correct thing, but I struggle with being politically correct. that's just messed up to me. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I'm gonna shut up so the pastor can have those closing words, bro.
Nah, go ahead, Doc. I appreciate you.
I'm through. I've been
Well-
calmed down.
you know, again, this is the Journey 2020 where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. at www.thejourney2020.com. So make sure that you subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the like button both on Facebook and YouTube. And on the third Monday, we have our very own Kathy Meeks from Robinson and Associates. I was trying to get her on, but I was trying to get Dr. Robinson on, Pastor Jenkins and Kathy Meeks,
Yeah.
but they were so busy today. I guess, Monday is a crazy day for them. And I was trying to get them on. I was trying to get Moses on, but he's stuck on the 408. He does the counseling because I wanted to speak from the clinical part and where we are psychologically and how this affects us and so on and so forth. But again, and on the fourth Monday, we in our own life coach, we have Regina Johnson. She's been on. She made a couple of comments. She told me to tell you hi, Rory, and so on. So with
Hey,
that
Gina.
being said, for on Wednesday night, 11 p.m., you can catch Rory T. Edwards and the original Coach Carter and myself for Youth Central Sports as we talk. Sports is more than just a game. And with that being said, I want to thank the both of you. Pastor, did you want to close us out? Did you want to close us out? I wish that I wish that we could hold hands or something, but and people, please, be prayerful, be mindful, be safe, be wise. But and if you get a chance to talk to somebody about just doing the right thing, if they decide to go out and protest, be encouraging to help them stay in their lane, in the sense that don't have them to do something crazy. Okay, we want you to protest. We want you to do the right thing, but use some common sense. Don't become a statistics. Don't pastor work in the prison system. So Don't pass by him. Be like, hey, Pastor, I saw you on the journey 2020. How you doing? But go ahead, Pastor.
Well, that's one way I used to tell them, you're going to hear my sermon, whether you be in the pews or the prison, but you're going to hear my sermon. You're going to hear the sermon.
Yeah.
Proverbs 16 says, when a man's ways pleases the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. And I just encourage those to do whatever we do it the right way. Do it where it is beneficial. Do it where it is substantial and can be substantiated. Not be led by our emotions and overwhelmed by our frustrations. Those things do exist, but we have to be smart about how we mobilize. And so I just encourage everyone to, be wise in the choices and seek those things that are be essential to your future. I have grandchildren, and nieces, nephews, and I'm thinking more future. I'm thinking more of legacy than life now. And my legacy is what's important to them. So I encourage everyone to think on those lines. When you make it bigger than yourself, then I think you make better choices.
All right. Well, be wise, people. Just like I said, remember, there was this guy. He came and he broke all the windows to the stores, and then he just left. He had his face covered. And they was trying to stop him and ask him what he was doing. He didn't take anything. He just broke the windows, and he walked away. The setup. Got to be smart. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so very much. Blessings to you. And thanks to everyone. Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Regina. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, James. Everyone, be safe. Enjoy your week. Everyone, be blessed.
Amen.